49ers making a flurry of selections to end the 2023 NFL draft. 6th rounders, 3 7th rounders. So all 4 of the final picks for the San Francisco 49ers right now on this episode of Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you again today. I feel like we were just doing this at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. We'll keep this one brief. We're going to come back for our Sunday night live Monday episode as we usually do every week to really have a full wrap, our favorite pick of the draft for the 49ers, overall thoughts. We're going to have more undrafted free agents to report on as well before we go deep dives into all of the prospects that the 49ers have landed so far in the 2023 NFL draft. And let's start with the 6th round and go to Dee Winters, Croc. And he is he's a player that I mean, you can't, it's really hard to look at the 49ers 6th rounder, Dee Winters, linebacker out of TCU, and not see shades or even more than shades of Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah. I mean, from just height, weight, and then the actual speed. And when we say speed, because Dre Greenlaw's speed on paper wasn't fast. I think the 49ers took his GPS tracker and it was much faster. But Dee Winters, I mean, he's fast on film, fast on paper. He's just a fast, athletic guy. And I was talking to a parent the other day talking about how, the value of running backs, right? And I just got done working out and I'm like, man, if I was a kid, I would not want to play running back. Like maybe Pop Warner, but after that, go play linebacker. Go play receiver. Go play one of these other positions. And I think Dee Winters is built kind of like a running back playing linebacker with legit athleticism. So it was fun to see some of the highlights that they showed him, making plays and whatnot. He was a guy that had a lot of love, even throughout the draft process, of a mid-round guy that people would really like. And clearly the 49ers were like, you're here. We need to take you.
5'11", 227 pounds of the combine, 3 pounds heavier. So he's 230 at his pro day, which is nice. So 5'11", 230. And in some ways it's undersized, but Croc, has the league for our entire lives and for eternity overrated height at linebacker? Being 6'4", 6'5", I don't think you get extra points for that at linebacker. If you're a true off-ball linebacker, I don't know if the height helps. So being 5'11", that's not even that much of a knock for me, but it's most of the reason why he's probably still there in the 6th round.
Right. I think it helps in coverage, just in window, especially if you're a zone-heavy team. Having longer players, it just kind of shrinks those passing lanes and windows. But clearly, you don't have to be tall. Dre Greenlaw, not the tallest of guys, hasn't stopped him from making a lot of plays for the 49ers, forcing turnovers, getting interceptions, taking them back for touchdowns. So, I think height in general for football is very underrated. How do you play? And, what are you able to make plays regardless of the height? Now, if you need to be taller to make plays, then okay. But a lot of these guys have been, short or five. I say short, but 5'11". Dee Winters. He's been 5'11" his whole life, and he's excelled at every turn. So I don't think that would be an issue for him.
Not at all. So 5'11", 230 at the combine. He ran 4.49, which is blazing speed for a linebacker. 30.5-inch vertical. Nothing to write home about with the rest of his testing numbers, but clearly speed, and you see it on tape, and he flies around and he makes plays and is very fast. And I think one of the things we saw over the course of the end of day 3 for the 49ers with their 6th and 7th round picks, and even in the round 5, were players that have a path to make the roster. Because if you're going to make the roster right now at the end of the 49ers roster as a 6th or 7th round pick, you're probably going to have to earn your stripes on special teams first before you even get a chance on offense or defense. And I think that's where Dee Winters will have a really good opportunity to, compete for a roster spot and then eventually work into the lineup is through special teams.
Yeah, and that's what you would like to see, right? I mean, that was the path for a lot of these guys, and there's an opportunity. A lot of these players, we talked about being able to compete for a starting spot or, a legit opportunity to be on this roster, especially for these late round guys. 49ers started with 11 draft picks. And we were like, they're not picking 11 guys, or 11 guys aren't making this roster. Well, when you look at Dee Winters, and we'll talk about kind of his fit with the 49ers, but there is a legit opportunity for him to kind of make an impact. If I'm him, hey, I'm coming in. Azeez Al-Shaair left, And that's an opportunity for me to come in and can I fill that spot as your main will guy, right? And he has to compete with McCrary Ball and there's some other Oren Burks and some of these other guys, but can I get in there? And then you look at down the line, and John Lynch had talked about drafting not just for this year, but the following year and the year after that. Well, Drake Greenlaw is entering the last year of his contract. So if you are a Dee Winters, no, this is a big time opportunity for me, for a guy that has a lot of talent. Clearly, I'm excited about this pick, maybe a little bit more than some of the other guys, but I think there's a legit opportunity for him to make somewhat of an impact even outside of special teams.
No, I feel the same way. It's the Dre Greenlaw special. It's what the 49ers have done such a good job finding and adding to their system is those linebackers. Size not as important as athleticism. Can you run? Can you run with tight ends and running backs in coverage? And can you close gaps against the run game? And can you run in coverage in zones and cover some ground? So that's what the 49ers found here in Dee Winters, linebacker out of TCU. Next up, the seventh round, Croc, for the San Francisco 49ers. I think it sounds like we both like the sixth round pick, Dee Winters, by the way. Interesting. We talked about the 49ers potentially doubling up on tight ends, and Brayden Willis was the first selection in the seventh round for the 49ers, and that was late in the seventh round by the time they got back on the clock there. Tight end out of Oklahoma, Brayden Willis. He was in our mock draft that we did Wednesday. What day was that? Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. I thought it was Sunday all day. Today is actually Saturday when we're recording this after the draft. Brayden Willis, 6'4", 241 pounds, and probably the most similar player in the entire draft to the guy they drafted in the third round in Cameron Latou. So clearly that's something the 49ers were looking for, was a move tight end, an H-back type of a player. I'd say the one difference between Brayden Willis and Cameron Latou, Croc, is that Willis gets after a little bit more as a blocker.
Well, shout out to my guy Jay Tuck. He's actually a Cowboy content creator, does an amazing job with them, and he really tracks a lot of these draft guys and the process of it. And he had this to say about Brayden Willis on April 23rd. All right, he said also, and he's talking in terms of for the Dallas Cowboys, but also, keep your eye out on Brayden Willis, tight end out of Oklahoma. He's a tight end / fullback hybrid with special teams ability, third in broken tackles, good ball skills, and he's good at high pointing the ball if need to be. He met with the Dallas Cowboys. He can potentially be their tight end 3. So, for the Cowboys being your tight end 3, because you got your guy at tight end, and then they just drafted a guy higher, right? Like I think second round they drafted a tight end, so then you draft him. So he's kind of by default going to be the tight end 3 over there with Dallas. But for the 49ers,
who's their guy
that they drafted?
The other guy. Is there another guy?
Was it like Dalton Schultz or something like that?
I think he left in free agency, didn't he?
There's somebody. They had like 2 tight ends, and I knew one was leaving, one was staying.
Pretty sure Dalton Schultz signed somewhere, and now I can't remember where that was.
All right, well, I'll look that up. But just for the 49ers and where they're at, this is a guy that, for the Cowboys, again, because they have their starting tight end, they got the guy they drafted high, and then you get this guy, he would have been their tight end 3. For the 49ers, you kind of come in and, hey, man, can you potentially compete for a tight end 2 spot? And that's why I think the 49ers are with their roster, especially when you're drafting guys this late. It's not so much about coming in and just making this immediate impact on offense. Can you carve out a role for yourself? And I think for him, it can be tight end / potentially H-back. And we saw that a lot and we've talked a lot about Ross Dwelley. When Kyle Juszczyk was out, who went to fullback? It was Dwelley. So can Brayden do these type of things? I think that's what he should be really gunning for.
Now, I don't know if it was due to injury. I think he did have. Okay, so this is what happened. There's no 40 time I have here, and I don't know if you've seen one on Brayden Willis. But 6'3.5", 242 pounds. He did the vertical jump of 33.5 inches, 9'10" in the broad jump, 4.50 short shuttle, 7.46 3-cone at his pro day. Very pedestrian athletic testing numbers, and then hurt his right hamstring and never ran the 40. And he didn't run the 40 at the combine either because of a choice. So I would guess that it wasn't a fast 40 that he was going to run anyway. So that's why he's here, because he's undersized and probably underspeeded in a way. But the one thing I liked about him is he got after it a little bit more than Cameron Latou. But watching Brayden Willis, he wasn't as smooth in space as Cameron Latou was. So that's probably just movement skills is the difference between the two, and why Latou went first. Even though, to be honest with you, I don't think there's separation. And there's certainly not 4 rounds of separation between these two prospects. But it's also telling us a story about what the 49ers are looking for with their next backup tight end here is a move guy, an H-back, someone in the backfield. And I think that's what they found in both of these players. So the competition will be fierce. And you have 2 draft picks now competing with Ross Dwelly and Charlie Warner behind George Kittle. So it's going to be a heck of a training camp competition.
Yeah, and also, real quick, Dallas Cowboys, they did lose that other tight end. The tight end that they do have right now, Jake Ferguson, they drafted him 4th round last year out of Wisconsin, I believe it was. And this year they drafted Luke Shoemaker, I want to say out of Michigan.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Going to the stats here for Brayden Willis, he had 39 catches last year. It was his first year being the full-time starter, second team All Big 12, 514 receiving yards, but he did have 7 touchdowns too. So, and a team captain. Going to the Beast and Dane Brugler's breakdown of Brayden Willis, says Willis won't be a full field receiving threat in the pros, but he has a healthy appetite as a blocker and will appeal to NFL teams that value alignment and versatility. He projects as a wide-ranging H-back, backfield, inline, or slot, and regular contributor on special teams. So, boom, again, special teams, a path to making the roster if he's not one of the top couple of tight ends in Brayden Willis. Next, Croc, a couple more 7th-round picks and maybe the most Shanahan-y of all picks in this 2023 NFL draft coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for that delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best tasting protein bar ever, which is Built. And if you're like me, you're trying to get away from the terrible for you snacks, the empty calories. You want something that doesn't compromise on taste, though, either. And that's where Built comes in, healthy and tasty. And seriously, they're so amazing. You got to check out Built Bar's unbelievable flavors, and most flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream, they're covered in 100% real dark chocolate, which really sets off Built Bar and really feel like you're getting a treat. And not only can you find all these flavors and varieties at Built.com, you can find them on your local Walmart and Sam's Club shelves. If you go to the pharmacy section at Walmart, you can find 4-bar boxes of cookies and cream, double chocolate, as well as coconut puff at Walmart. And then at Sam's Club, 13-bar boxes of hit flavors, brownie batter puff and churro puff. And then thank us later. And of course, you can find all the flavors at Built.com. Ronnie Bell, Croc. Have you run through the Ronnie Bell tape at all? Because this is, if you asked me yesterday, said, okay, 49ers are going to draft a Shanahan wide receiver. What does that look like? I'd say he's probably around 5'11 and a half, 200 pounds, really competitive after the catch, maybe not dynamic speed, but can move a little bit and is tough and willing to block. Well, that is the exact scouting report of Ronnie Bell out of Michigan, 7th round selection for the San Francisco 49ers. And look, this is a 7th round pick, so you're not drafting this guy expecting he's going to come in and beat out Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel for a job. But again, and actually, hold on, let me check back in with Dane Brugler's Beast, because I have a feeling when it comes to Ronnie Bell that there's some special teams in his background as well, just because of the way he plays. He looks like a player that would have been very willing to go down and tackle people on special teams. But 5'11 and a half, 190 pounds, 4.54 was his 40-yard dash at the combine. Looking for the rest of his numbers that I cannot find because he's a little bit deep down here in the rankings.
I'll say this while you're looking for that. I watched him, and a lot of people that they talked about a strength of his was his speed, especially vertically, being able to win down the field. I just didn't see it. Like I didn't see that. Like when I watched him, and I watched the games, I watched Michigan, I watched their offense, and he felt very pedestrian. That's not to say that it's a bad pick. It's just we talked about kind of, our favorites and our least favorites. I think you can kind of hear my tone in this episode right now. He's probably my least favorite pick, even more so than the kicker. And the reason why is because you have an opportunity to get all these dynamic guys, right? Like if I'm going to take a swing at a receiver, you have a chance to get just guys with dynamic ability. And if you watch highlights, Bell, I think he'll come off as a dynamic guy. But when I just watch him, it's just like, he's cool. And I watched him at the Senior Bowl. And he was one of the guys who I went to actually watch. Like, I want to watch Bell. And I was just like, he's cool. And I know typically late in drafts, you get the he's cool type of guys. But receivers, you can find guys where it's like, oh, I'm excited about this guy, like this, or being able to do this. And there was nothing exciting about his game. Now, he might get to the NFL and be very good because another guy kind of slept on a little bit, Terry McLaurin. Where I remember watching Terry McLaurin's film, and it was like, oh, he's cool, right? He goes third round, and he kills it. He's one of the best young receivers in the NFL. He also ran in the 4.3s, and Bell doesn't. He's a 4.54 type guy, so he doesn't have that dynamic ability even hidden in him. When I saw the pick, I was just like, and then you tweeted it out, and I put the palm over my face, shaking my head, like, and someone said, not a fan? And it was like, no, I'm not a fan of the pick.
Croc just hates Michigan Wolverines, I think is what we're getting to the bottom of here.
Did Blake Corum get drafted? I like the running back.
I did not see. Third team All Big Ten for Ronnie Bell. He led the team in receiving, 16-yard rushing touchdown as well, and a team captain. So captains, special teamers is the name of the game for the San Francisco 49ers 2023 draft class. He had 62 catches for 889 yards, which was his best production on the field for the Wolverines. 4 touchdown catches, and I mentioned the rushing touchdown as well. And the testing numbers are pretty good in the short area, and you see some movement skills that are nice with Ronnie Bell, but it doesn't end in like, it's hard to explain because he's active, but he doesn't get away. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, it looks like, oh man, he could break this run after the catch, but he kind of doesn't, but he's active and he gets some yards. Like, okay,
so it reminds you a lot of,
and he can make a big play, but it doesn't quite break it.
Kendrick Bourne.
I think he's faster.
It's faster than Kendrick Bourne, but I mean, that was the thing with Bourne,
like,
right?
Yeah, I know
Bourne was never going to truly run away from you. At least nothing that you can like, well, I know Kendrick Bourne is going to do this. Now, he might get you, and I watched him for the New England Patriots. He got Diggs on a double move a couple years ago, and it was like a 70-yard touchdown. But more times than not, you're not going to get a 70-yard touchdown or even the thought of it from Kendrick Bourne. It's just like solid receiver, catches the ball. The 33rd team, they have like this website. I see a lot of their stuff on social media, but it's called the 33rd team or something like that. They listed his strengths and weaknesses, and hopefully I have it in this phone. I don't know if I don't have it in this phone. It's in my other phone. They listed his strengths and weaknesses, and his weaknesses were like catching the ball, route separation, and there was like one other one. I'm like, these are terrible weaknesses to have.
The 3 most important things about playing receiver. I did see somebody talking about his ability to go deep. I wonder, Croc, because he had an ACL injury in 2021. He only played 1 game in his junior season, and he did have a 76-yard touchdown in his 1 reception in that game. He tore his ACL. I wonder if maybe he had more deep speed juice, because even just going as far back as his sophomore year in 2019, before the COVID year, so we kind of missed a couple of years, only 6 games of COVID, only 1 game the following year because of torn ACL. Going back to 2019, his sophomore year, he had 48 catches for 758. And his yards per catch were a little bit bigger his freshman and sophomore year than they were the lowest as a senior at 14.3 yards per catch. So I wonder if maybe the ACL sapped some. And if you look back at his, at his younger days pre-ACL, maybe he was a little faster and was a little better getting the ball down the field than he was as a senior. But I only watched his senior tape, and what I saw was, kind of medium size, medium speed, and a nice player that could kind of grow on you, I think. But, not someone that blows you away, and not someone you're swinging for the fences with, but probably someone who has a better shot at making the roster in the 7th round than someone that maybe isn't willing to play or good at playing special teams, and someone that maybe needs more development.
So the 49ers, and talked a lot about Bill and him as a receiver. They signed a receiver, Shea Wyatt, out of Tulane. And my agent, he actually tweeted me. He was my agent. I guess technically still. It's not like I fired him. I'm just old now. But he said, congrats to Elite Sports Agency client Shay Wyatt signing with the 49ers. I know my boy Eric Crocker is happy as hell. And he called me right when we started. I didn't get the answer. But maybe what we'll do for y'all is when it's almost time to get out, I'll call him. I'll put him on speakerphone and have him give us a scouting report of Shay Wyatt, receiver out of Tulane.
Shay Wyatt, receiver out of Tulane. Breaking news here is Eric Crocker. I love that. That's fantastic stuff. We have one more 7th round pick to get to next, Croc, but also another undrafted free agent that I saw that I think should excite some people out there. That, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people had Joey Fisher, an offensive tackle, a small school offensive tackle. They had him in a lot of places ranked higher than a lot of maybe most of the 49ers draft picks. And so he's a really interesting one to monitor here. And the 49ers didn't draft an offensive lineman, which opens the door for potentially an undrafted free agent to come in and compete. Joey Fisher out of Shepherd, another undrafted free agent. I'll talk a little bit about him after we get to our final 7th round pick for the 49ers next. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Shout out to all the everydayers. We'll be back tomorrow with another Sunday night, Monday morning live episode that kind of wraps up the entire draft. Some of our favorite picks, our least favorite picks, our overall thoughts, more of the undrafted free agents as well, and some of your thoughts live on YouTube. So and we had some bonus stuff on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the audio only pod, you got to check out the Locked On 49ers YouTube because there's a lot more extra content there during the draft that we were doing. And it's fun to get involved with the live shows as well. So subscribe up to the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out the Peacock and Williamson show every single day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So the 49ers finished up the NFL draft this year. They didn't have Mr. Irrelevant, but they were darn close with the 38th pick in the 7th round. And they went with Jalen Graham, another linebacker. So doubled up at tight end, doubled up at linebacker in this draft. And Jalen Graham is not a player I watched any of, 6'2", 220 pounds out of Purdue, but another sort of undersized linebacker, not nearly as fast, ran 4.6s compared to Dee Winters 4.49. But he is, a little bit longer, lengthy guy, has some athleticism. His scouting report talks about him matching up with tight ends in coverage, which is nice. And as a run defender, will sift through traffic, chases with good effort, and closes well. Graham needs to improve his ability to stack and shed blockers. And again, another player that's going to have to make his mark on special teams. But the big loser in this entire draft, Croc, is probably guys like Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and Curtis Robinson and really especially Marcelino McCrary-Ball, who's an undrafted free agent last year. They just went and drafted 2 linebackers. I thought McCrary-Ball had a really nice path to make the roster. He's got a fight on his hands.
Yeah, he does have a fight on his hands. And we've seen how the 49ers have done a terrific job, one, identifying linebackers, and then 2, really kind of developing them, getting them ready. And the development part at the NFL level, it's really a lot mental. A lot of these guys have athletic ability. That's why they're playing at the high level. And that was the one thing I was kind of shocked to see. I'm thinking like, man, it's the NFL level. These guys are going to be so great. Like, yeah, you got a few special guys, and then everybody else is just good football players. And the guys that end up being on rosters for a long time, they figure it out from a mental standpoint. So that's going to be the battle with these guys at that linebacker position. Who can catch on the fastest? Obviously, McCrary-Ball has a head start on it. Who understands the level of preparation that you have to have? Who gets it mentally when their coach is telling them all the different checks? And who makes the least amount of mental mistakes? And the guy that does that out of these 3 guys, and I'm including McCrary-Ball in that, that's the guy that's probably going to be on the field. So it's a really good opportunity for all 3 of those guys.
4.64 was the official 40 time for Jalen Graham.
Not bad.
Purdue must have had a really good defense. Offense. I mean, was Purdue really good this year?
I don't know. Their quarterback got drafted, and the way that they talked about him,
they
were like, oh, man, he's great. I just watched him, though, against Penn State. I wasn't impressed. I watched the Penn State defense, watching our safety, 49ers drafted, Tig Brown. All right. But I didn't see anything. But they had a receiver that got drafted as well, and he had like 150 in that game. Jones, can't think of where he went. White guy, number 15, dynamic type player. But so they had a lot of draftable type guys. I think Purdue probably had a solid class, especially for them.
The scouting report doesn't really wow you. 25th ranked linebacker in this class, according to Dane Brugler in the Beast Draft Guide. Graham is alert, well-built, and driven to make plays, which might fit as a Sam linebacker, but his pursuit speed is average, and his tight transition will be tough to overcome versus NFL skill athletes. His versatile background and special teams potential could be his saving grace. So basically the 49ers were like, look, we're only drafting guys here that can play special teams because that's the only way they're making the roster. So that was kind of round 7 for the Niners.
Right. And that's what the battle is going to be. And from the time they show up, they'll tell the guys, really as a late round guy, you're kind of auditioning for all 32 teams. And your best way to make this roster is going to be kissing the butt of the special teams coach. And he has to be your best friend. And you got to be that coach's pet. Unfortunately, me, I'm too true to Stockton, and that might have cost me some money because I'm like, I ain't kissing nobody's butt. And like, I'm like, oh man, you should have probably kissed some butt a little bit, just a little bit. All right. But the guys that's going to be in there talking with the special teams coach, getting the special team coach to know them. Hey, where can I help? What can I improve on? Where can I get better at? The guy that's going to do all those things is going to give you a little edge over the other guys who aren't used to playing special teams because, man, I've been a starter, or I've been, I'm a 4-year starter. They didn't have me on a whole bunch of special teams. Maybe don't even truly know how to interact with a special teams coach because they are a little different. But that guy might have a little bit harder time really finding because they don't care even for these guys, just being good on defense is not going to be enough. You got to be good on defense, and you better be really good on special teams.
So there is some
undrafted guy, that McCrary Ball. I mean, he was undrafted. I mean, the late round picks, there's no guarantees with any of these guys.
Oh, no way. We've seen the 49ers in recent years, 6th round picks, rookies not making it. 3rd round picks from the year before not making it into year 2 with the team. So it's going to be hotly contested. And with that many draft picks, and even though they traded a couple away, still had 9 picks, it's going to be tough for some of these late round rookies. I mean, we're talking about guys drafted 250 overall. So yeah, it's going to be some roster battles at the bottom of the doubt. Special teams is going to be a factor in it.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just went to the 49ers depth chart, and, they automatically insert the young guys. And I don't know if this is where they're going to actually play or not. But when we talked about Bill, we did talk about him as kind of a stand-up edge rusher, outside linebacker. Really more so in my head, I'm thinking 3-4 outside linebacker. But 49ers have him listed as will. I don't know if that's going to stand, but they do have him listed as a will linebacker.
Interesting. He would be really big. I mean, he just doesn't fit. I think that might be just like he was listed as outside linebacker at Georgia.
Okay,
and so someone's just inputting information in this outlet. So they just write outside linebacker.
Yeah, basically. And they don't even have him as like strong because they got Oren Burks as a starting strong side linebacker.
That's interesting. That might be just inputting information.
Yeah.
And he was listed as an outside linebacker because he was in that 3-4 scheme. We're seeing a lot of these undrafted free agent names, and we'll get to more of them. But one I want to highlight here, I think, is a prize undrafted free agent for the 49ers, offensive lineman Joey Fisher out of Shepherd. He bench pressed the 225 pre-draft 40 times, by the way, which I think is pretty the most of anybody I've seen in this. But he's an older prospect, 25, has had a really wild road to now get to the NFL. And he didn't play football for 3 years, excuse me. So he went to Towson College University. I don't know what you guys call it over there in Towson, but in 2016. So we're going all the way back to 2016. This is an older prospect, already 25. He'll be 26 at some point this year before the season ends. In November, he turns 26. He was out of football because he left the program during the summer of 2016 at Towson. Didn't play in 2017. Didn't play in 2018. Came back in 2019 to Shepherd and played right tackle his entire career at Shepherd, and immediately was second team all PSAC, whatever the heck that is, in the conference that Shepherd plays in. And then 2020 season canceled again because of the pandemic. So out of 4 years, he played 1 season of college football in 2019, came back, finished the last 2 years in his junior and senior season at Shepherd. He was first team All-American last year in 2022, at right tackle and just buries guys. And the film is fun to watch. And, there's some questions about the strength of opponent and his age, but he was a late riser in the process. And some people were talking about him much higher, like a mid-round pick.
Wow.
And maybe sticking at offensive tackle. But to me, I watched him a little bit and just looking at his measurements, I think he's an interior guy all day long. 6'4", 296. He's got short arms, which is why he's an interior guy, 32-inch arms, but big hands. Ran sub 5.0 in the 40. He ran the 40 in 4.97, vertical jump 32 inches, and had the 40 bench press reps. So just a really good athlete and fast and strong and wants to beat people up and absolutely has a shot to stick. And that's going to be interesting competition there because you got Jason Poe, and I think he's going to be this year's version of Jason Poe is Joey Fisher, where he's going to be a fan favorite and he's going to have an opportunity to fight for a roster spot. And so really it's the best offensive lineman the 49ers have brought in the draft, because they didn't draft any, was Joey Fisher out of Shepherd, a name to watch.
I think, kind of addressing why we believe the 49ers didn't go after and draft an offensive lineman. We probably have to talk the fans off the cliff a little bit with that one, but or off the edge of the cliff. Excuse me. I don't want to talk y'all off.
Don't talk them off. Let's talk them back on.
But we're talking about a guy potentially, fans getting behind. And I mean, is it already written in stone that an undrafted running back is going to make this roster? And this year's UTEP running back, Ronald Awatt, that the 49ers signed, I might have said his name wrong, but can we just guarantee him a roster spot?
Oh, he's going to do something sometime. He might have to start on the practice squad, but TDP, better watch out. Watch your heels.
Oh, man, watch your heels. That's why running backs, man, there was a running back that got drafted. The running back out of Pitt, and I don't want to butcher his name. It's like, what did you do?
Abanaconda.
Wow, good job. All right, so
Izzy.
Yeah, clearly Peacock is a professional with the radio stuff. All right, but Wandakonda, I know I just said his name wrong. He got drafted in the 5th round, and that was a guy that like a lot of people really like. And I said, look, that is the value of a running back. Like you take him here, it might have been 4th round, whenever it was. You take that guy here. He's a good running back in college. He's a one-step, a one-cut, get-upfield type of guy. This is the value of him. Middle of the 4th, late 4th, whatever. Not when and he's more dynamic than Trey Sermon and Ty Davis Price. So it's like you get somebody that's more dynamic, stout. They want him to break a little bit more tackles. I think he fits 49ers offense very well. You're able to get that guy in the 4th round, he'd be productive. But instead,
I believe it was the 5th round, I think, Croc. I think he had it right originally.
All right, so maybe, 5th round.
And what running game scheme did he go to? New York Jets. Israel Abanaconda out of Pitt. He went pick 143 overall, 5th round to the New York Jets.
Right. So him and Breece Hall, nice little, and Hall's coming back from an ACL injury, but that's a running back. And then the Seahawks, they didn't stop. They drafted another running back.
Yeah, they drafted. Who did they draft? They drafted.
I'll tell you right now.
Gosh, who had a great draft was the Indianapolis Colts. Really like what they did.
Yeah. So the running back that they signed, looks like the Seahawks got Bobo.
So they got
McIntosh. There we go. McIntosh out of Georgia.
Yeah.
And when did they get McIntosh out of Georgia? Hold on.
6th or 7th round.
I mean, like 7th round, Kenny McIntosh, 7th round. That's where you draft running backs.
Oh, but they also spent a 2nd rounder on Charbonnet after drafting Walker in the 2nd round.
And that's where you draft running backs.
I mean, they're stocked at running back. They're stocked at running back, and they wanted to make sure they're covered for injury there as well.
Walker, when he got hurt, they were in a little trouble when he got hurt last year.
And they had a ton of, Rashad Penny left, and they had a ton of picks. So
I like this. This is what I like about this. You got 3 backs. They're all really young, right? They all have ability. You might have different roles for a couple of the guys, and maybe Kenny McIntosh, he's a good pass catcher out the backfield. He can do all these different things. But you got 2 guys that are young. At one point, hey, man, we might have to pay you, but we're good because we got this guy and this guy. You can go ahead and walk. They don't want to pay guys that second contract. They just don't. $10+ million at the running back position. When I bet these guys are going to be pretty productive.
That's the way to do it. Draft a bunch of running backs. Don't spend a lot on them early, and that's definitely the way I would go about things if I was running an NFL team. think teams are starting to agree more and more with that strategy. Oh gosh. Okay. So tomorrow we'll come back. We'll wrap up the entire draft. Our big thoughts on the draft. We'll have kind of watched some more of the prospects, know a little bit more about them, and get your thoughts on them in the live draft chat Sunday night. So join us here on YouTube, Locked On 49ers, or we will see you on the audio only pods on Monday morning with the draft wrap. And then next week's all about deep dives into all of the 49ers newest rookies, starting with Jair Tig Brown, which will be in Tuesday's podcast feed. And we'll talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers.